Greetings, Spuds. It's Jerry Casale here, Bob Mothersbaugh and Mark Mothersbaugh, and we're here for episode number 5 of Devolutionary Times, where we discuss the videos we made during the New Traditionalist album cycle in 1981. So that includes Through Being Cool, Love Without Anger, and my personal favorite, Beautiful World. So let's get started.
Listen up, Spuds. Welcome to Devolutionary Times. Devolutionary Times. Devolutionary Times. Devolutionary Times.
De-evolution, self-execution, no solution. I'm a potato. I got eyes all around.
We need eyes all around as this world falls apart faster and faster. We have to see what's coming and going and what's sneaking up on us from behind. Devolutionary Times. It's not too late to whip it good.
I like to shoot 'em all.
The title of this album came from we were in Japan on tour, and we were eating at a sushi restaurant after a show really late at night, and there were a couple Japanese businessmen that were sitting there, and they were looking at us because we were not typical for that restaurant at that time of night, and they were drinking a lot of sake. And at one point, one of the guys jumped up and said something, and in the process of him talking, we noticed that he had a tie bar on, and it had a picture of a hand, of a businessman's hand holding a pen, and it had a sleeve on it. And across the sleeve, which went across the tie, it said New Traditionalists. We thought, yeah, that's kind of what we want to do. We want to set new traditions.
Right, new traditions, because we were really feeling the pangs of the right-wing swing of the culture under Reagan, where he had empowered all the televangelical people and everything was going that direction in America, which was very disheartening, depressing. And we thought, it's time for new traditions, because those people talked about tradition, and traditional culture and traditional family. We thought, no, new traditions. So we were excited by that phrase and ran with it.
Through all these albums, we were kind of checking out all the new stuff that was coming out, and that was the first year that MIDI existed, and it allowed all the different synthesizer companies their synths could talk to each other and could you could sequence them together,
Right.
and it was kind of a big deal.
Devo was always, of course, early adapters of anything. We couldn't get enough of any experimental audio or video. And this was the follow-up record to Freedom of Choice, which had then turned out to be commercially successful, and Whip It was a big hit. And so the label was hoping that we would just continue along that vein. But of course, being Devo, we had really moved on. And using these Roland sequencers became kind of the focus of a lot of the songs on the New Traditionalist record.
We recorded the album in New York at Power Station.
Right.
And a fun part of that was meeting Mick Jagger and Charlie Watts. They came in and watched us tracking for a day, and I got to hang out with them down in the common room.
The unfun part was I think the tape we were talked into using, the 2-inch recording tape. After several passes of putting overdubs on it, we smelled strange smells and saw that it was deteriorating, right? It was coming up.
Right. After a number of passes through the machine, the oxide started falling off. We had to transfer that over to analog 2-inch tape so that we could continue recording.
Try to save it. Frankly, back then, recording in a studio every day was quite expensive, and we couldn't afford to start over because the tape company wouldn't compensate us at all. And the record company said, well, we gave you your advance. You do what you want.
They'd ignored us up to then. Uh, the first 3 albums, they didn't really pay much attention. And then after Freedom of Choice sold really well, then it was like we'd be working while we were writing, and we'd look over and there'd be somebody from Warner Brothers would be peeking their head into the room, and they'd be going, "Hey guys, how you doing?"
Right. That's when they wanted another Whippet. They were
Yeah.
hoping we'd just, remain in that vein that of Freedom of Choice sounds, that kind of production. And as I mentioned before, Devo wasn't about that. We were concept driven and we had new ideas. We were in love with this new technology and we're trying to use it, like find a way to really use it as a spine of the songs. So with Through Being Cool, which was funny because Devo never was cool. So this was kind of like a no more Mr. Nice Guy sentiment where, well, we're through being cool.
We're through being cool. We're through being cool. Spank the paint who tried to drive you nuts.
Teenage kids are, coming into Club Devo, getting their spud guns, which are basically lasers, and putting on their action vests and going out into the world and rectifying the situation out there with people that are particularly bothersome and unnerving type people. Kenny wasn't famous yet. He was introduced to us by Tony Basil. And she said, oh, he's going to be a big guy. We said, really? We didn't understand. And of course, once again, in the Devo do-it-yourself aesthetic, we didn't have musical type money. So the dance routine was pretty sparse, as you can see. And most of it was shot against blue screen. So they danced in place. And then we put composited the environments in later, except when they dance into our rehearsal studio and jump over the wooden banister. That is where we really were recording the record. And that helped us afford the video because we had already rented the studio to record in. So it became a location. We collaborated with Kenny on how these kids would dance through the environment, what kind of moves they would make, how to get them from point A to point B. He wasn't a big fan of having a shoot on blue screen, like this is all dancing in place here. But he went along with it because he did like the narrative, in the storyboard. He liked it.
I was just amazed that we were such good actors. Why we haven't been in a bunch of movies since then.
Love without anger. Love without anger.
Yes, Love Without Anger. Embarrassing soap opera that relationships become. And the way people are programmed about their morality, almost hypocritically, without really dealing with it honestly between the people in the relationship. And I think our favorite part of this was the set piece that we worked with Reverend Stang of the Subgenius Foundation on the animation of Barbie and Ken. So Barbie and Ken were acting out the relationship fight that's the center of the lyric of the song. And he did the animation. We sent him a storyboard of what we'd like, and he did it. And it's stop frame animation. Here's Barbie and Ken, and they're in a big fight. And it pretty much gets surreal quickly. We loved it. It's hilarious. She rips his legs off, I think. Yeah, rips his legs off. And then he rips her head off, punches her head off. But then,
Much like in
real life.
yeah.
But see, then they make up. See, love comes out of her neck. Obviously, we were having fun. It was satire. It was humorous. There's grotesqueness to it. Mark's girlfriend at the time is the hen, the dancing hen. We had a really rough time with getting the worms to move in the heart-shaped
True,
Valentine
they
Day.
just wanted to lay there.
We had to get a worm wrangler to tell us what we had to do to them to make them squirm. And of course,
We
it wouldn't be
scared-
allowed today. We abused those worms.
We told them they were going to be on fishing hooks in a few hours, and that frightened them.
We clearly were obsessed with masks from proto Devo time.
Yeah.
And you know, I was not so good at keeping my collection. I always had a few. Mark had a lot, and the masks were inspiration because, again, you know, you put on a mask, you become a persona. You're bigger than yourself. You're something other than yourself. And so, back to the beginning of theater itself, Greek theater, its mask is an important element, you know, dramatic element. And so we were find any reason we could to use masks.
Yeah, I think when we played at the Crypt and CBGB's, places like that, I think I could see people in the audience looking at each other going, Greek theater.
Before they tried to pull our guns.
It's a beautiful world we live in, a sweet romantic place. Beautiful people everywhere. The way they show they care makes me want to say it's a
Beautiful world. It is both the song and the video are one of my favorite all-time Devo pieces of creative content, right? I remember when Mark started playing the sequence in the rehearsal hall that we had rented. I thought, wow, this sounds like something new for Devo, because it's kind of almost what's the word? Sentimental. It sounds, you know, almost soporific. It's very melodic, and that kind of inspired a lyric that was actually juxtaposed against the sweetness of the music. And it's just a simple statement, one man's opinion, that, you know, hey, it's a beautiful world for you, but not for me. And the video is illustrating why it's not a beautiful world, because there's nothing in the lyrics other than the punchline that you wait 3 minutes for, which is not for me. There's nothing in the lyrics to suggest that it's tongue-in-cheek or any kind of a, you know, spiky attitude. But the video progresses from silliness to horror. You know, you see Americana and consumerism and silliness, a beauty pageant, you know, people skiing, somebody using the jetpack in 1962, the Bell jetpack. And then slowly it's migrating into war, racism. What inspired that movement, you know, that arc, was Bonnie and Clyde. Because in Bonnie and Clyde, it starts off almost as a humorous, you know, caper movie, you know, like bank robbers. Once again, bank robbers. And they're kind of glamorous and it's kind of wacky. And there's the banjo music and they get away. And then as the movie goes on, it gets darker and darker, you know, until they're all getting killed. And then finally Bonnie and Clyde are assassinated. So I was always really impressed with the way that movie took you from here to there and did it seamlessly and sucked you into it. And I think our video in 3.5 minutes does that to people. And because it's a very well-defined idea, it holds up over time.
You know, when Jerry first was putting lyrics over the music, singing over it, he was more exaggerated than what finally went down on tape. But he was kind of parodying Stan Ridgway from Wall of Voodoo. We were kind of doing like an extreme voice on it. And
Yeah.
there's some of that still in there.
Yeah, we loved Walla Voodoo, and we were very pleasantly and creatively amused by the way Stan was so stylized in his delivery, like no one else sounded like Ridgway, and it was there was something about it that was very vulnerable, like the way he would sing, the same way he sang the song "I'm a nice guy, but I don't love you." You know, he uh, he was the opposite of the macho guy, and his voice sounded like that, like almost there was some kind of pleading in it.
Yeah.
Well, now it's time for us to answer questions, and the first one is from Tina Awamoto. Through Being Cool lives rent-free in my head, especially because of heavy metal. Did you know it would be used in the movie? We had no idea that Through Being Cool would ever be used in the animated film Heavy Metal.
Yeah. It was kind of,
A strange request.
yeah.
But we weren't against it. We thought, well, Devo's always been the odd man out or subversive, you know, in your own lane. And if they want this song in a movie that otherwise has very predictable music genre to it, we'll stand out. And that's what happened.
Uh-oh.
Maxime.
Maxime Harel asks, the very beginning of the video has always bothered me a bit since it's so different. What's it supposed to mean? You know, with the crosses and the little piece of music.
Oh, we had the preamble to Through Being Cool, where the three of us are crucified
Yeah.
on metal crosses.
Yeah.
But then
They were heavy metal crosses.
heavy metal crosses, and then we use our superhuman Devo strength to break those crosses. And the idea was that we're through being victimized, you know, that we're taking our fate into our own hands. We're not going to do what Jesus did and sacrifice ourselves. We're coming off those crosses.
Okay, Michael asked, did Devo attempt to learn to skateboard during the shoot of Through Being Cool?
We practically invented skateboards.
I personally did not attempt to learn.
I stupidly tried it years later. It was 1989, and I was down in San Pedro because I was dating this girl from there. And we were in this park area, you know, in the daytime, and these kids came by with skateboards, and one of them recognized me. And they were going down these, you know, concrete steps that had a very, what do you want to call it? A very shallow drop between the steps. And it looked so easy. They would just go and they would kind of lift up a little bit and land on the next step, right? And the steps were very long. And I thought, oh, I can do that. and so I got on the skateboard and I could balance and make it go. And then I got to that first step and did the move I think I saw them do. And immediately cracked 2 ribs on the railing next to that step. Chris Mirabueno, he says, Love Without Anger is one of my favorite Devo songs, and it was on heavy rotation on MTV back in the day. Why has it been played so rarely on tour? I don't have a good answer for that.
You can only play so many songs in a show, you know, and there were songs that we felt were part of us playing live, and a lot of those songs came off the first 3 albums. And so we did add songs in, you know, as we went along, but we were always kind of preferential to the first 3 albums.
Also, it was hard to fit this type of song once you're have developed a kind of a crest of energy on stage. This kind of song was more contemplative, more static, and if you weren't seeing the video, it wasn't moving the experience of seeing Devo forward. I think that's in line with what Mark's saying.
Yeah. Where does Chris live? Chris Mirabuena.
Chris Mirabueno.
Maybe we'll just have to show up at his place one day.
Yeah, Chris.
And we'll do
we could lip
a
sync.
show for him, a 1 song.
We could lip sync Love Without Anger. on his front lawn.
Okay, Bob. Joe's Zaya G asks,
Yes, he asked, what was the inspiration for the Love Without Anger music video? Well, we all had love without anger at the time. We had the perfect girlfriends. Just want everybody to know.
yeah, never fought, never disagreed. With New Traditionalists, what we all thought was that we were moving on from the sights and sounds of freedom of choice into new territory that was exciting us as artists.
And we thought everything we did was going to be loved and, accepted as great art.
Well, we were wrong, but that didn't mean we were going away. And as a matter of fact, what comes up next that we'll be talking about in episode 6 is Oh No, It's Devo, that album cycle and the videos that went with it, where we decided to come back with a vengeance after having our tails between our legs critically on New Traditionalists.